10 o'clock across the Delaware Valley. It's a Friday, so I hope your Friday is going well. So we have our man, but I got to play this for him, right? We have a new opening for our man Baldy. So before we introduce him, let's introduce his opening. Here it is.
Baldy, Baldy. Oh, let's talk some football. Ay, Baldy, Baldy. Oh, he likes meats and football.
Oh, Baldy. What do you think, brother?
That was well done, man. I like it. Let's get it out there. That's good tease right there. It kind of covers the gamut, in my world.
Dude, the greatest is it's you everywhere. Like, it's you wearing the uniform like you did. It's you in the ocean snorkeling. It's you doing breakdowns. The only thing missing is the Baldy greenhouse.
Well, I mean, we can easily add that to it. I just got rid of the heaters and the sun lamps from the winter. Now I got to go and clean it out when I get back home. That'll take me a day because I've got like some fig trees and some citrus plants that just took off this winter, and it's time to like pot those and get them outside right now.
Nice. Yeah. Any good peppers? You gave me the greatest hot pepper that I've ever had. In fact, I made a pasta out of it with a garlic and
arrabbiata. You went straight arrabbiata on there?
Oh, it was fabulous. I forget what it was. The wax pepper?
Well, it's a Hungarian wax. The Hungarian wax pepper is the hottest pepper. Now I've got 6 different type of peppers. The ground is still too cold to put them in. Probably sometime in early May. But these things will bloom and flower and fruit all the way into the end of November. I mean, they're a hardy plant. But yeah, the Hungarian wax pepper will make you cry for sure.
Yeah, I love it. By the way, it's great. You put a little garlic oil, a little tomato paste, and the locatelli cheese. Fabulous. Yeah. Fabulous.
You know what you're doing.
All right. I was looking forward to all day. The Meatlocker Mock Draft 1.0. Mm-hmm. So this is where we're going to go. I'm going to give you the team, and then you give me your best guess. All right?
Okay.
Now we know there's trades and the whole thing. So, but you whatever how you see go, because needs. What I love about, like, when you and I are working together, like, what teams really need. You've done all your homework, watching all the tape, all the footage of these kids. Yeah. We love the draft. So I don't trust anybody's mock but yours. All right.
All right. Well, I appreciate that, cuz. Look, I in my mock, I made a couple of trades because I know there's going to be more. We kind of know who the top 30 to 40 players are. It's just what order, what need, where do they go? And then, like, for example, I was at the Jets on Tuesday, cuz. Now, they had their draft meetings, but I saw one of their senior advisors, and I asked him about a particular player. And he's like, Baldy, some of these kids, the NIL money, they seem a little entitled. And I was just like, well, I know he's a top prospect at a particular position. I'm not going to give his name or who told me.
Right.
I can see that this team is not – because they've been burned at this position before by similar type trades. I can guarantee you that they would cross this guy off their list just off of a 1-minute conversation. And that's kind of how, when people start getting some information gets leaked out.
Hey, bro, can I interrupt you 1 second? Because we're getting some feedback off your speaker. Andrew.
No, it's our computer.
Okay. All right, good. Never mind. Go ahead, brother. It's on surprise. It's on this end.
Depending on who's making the decisions, some of these things, past history at positions, or not getting the all-in type player, or whatever it is, like those things can it can take people off the board. It can make them rise. It can make them fall. Like, even though the talent could substantiate the pick.
So let's start off. Obviously, Caleb, and you know Caleb, will go first to Chicago. We all know that's the lock of all locks.
You have to remember with Caleb, though, is one, Ryan Poles is making the decision in Chicago. He made the decision to trade Justin Fields. But he comes from Kansas City, cuz he was there when Mahomes was there. He's been there with Andy and understands how important it is to support the quarterback. And so I think they feel good, not trying to compare him to Patrick Mahomes. But, Mahomes came to a great situation. He came with Andy. Alex Smith was the starter. He didn't have to play right away. He was the 10th pick in the draft. Like, he wasn't – Trubisky was taken in front of all these guys. And so I felt like it was almost a perfect scenario for Mahomes to kind of get this Hall of Fame career launched in Kansas City.
Yeah. When you look at the quarterbacks, how do you look at the difference between Caleb and then, all the other ones? Like, because it's funny when I look at these quarterbacks, like I love Jaden Daniels, right? We've talked about Drake May, but Caleb seems to be the safest floor. Would you agree with that?
Well, I think there's a lot of people, and you'll see in the next 2 weeks, you'll see teams will have Jaden Daniels in front of them. Because, Jaden Daniels, Arizona State, kind of humble. They had a situation there. Like, he leaves. He wasn't a runner at Arizona State. He's kind of a pocket guy. And, Brian Kelly gets him at LSU. Now, they've got these receivers, Malik Neighbors, whatever. But, Brian Kelly kind of unlocked his running ability. And so now you see him running at elite levels, of dual threat quarterbacks. I'm concerned about his narrow frame. I'm concerned about him trying to do too much in the run game, trying to leave too early at times. Because those guys, look, Lamar has done that.
Yeah.
He's transitioning, but, Lamar is built. Like, he's got the neck of a middle linebacker. Like, he's a thick guy. He's not this. And so I worry about Jaden's frame running, but I think he's certainly the number 2 prospect in this whole process, and an elite prospect right now.
I love him. I'll be honest with you. Like, I'm enamored by his arm. I think he's got all the tools. I agree with his slight frame, and there's other stuff that I think he can work through. So that's kind of why I like. So you have Washington taking Jaden Daniels?
Well, it's interesting. Cliff Kingsbury is the offensive coordinator there, right? So, he's coached a lot of elite quarterbacks, obviously, going back to Johnny Manziel in college, elite prospect in college, Mahomes, whatnot. But, he originally was going to the Raiders, and, when he saw what Washington was all about, he was like, wait a second. If Caleb goes 1 and Jaden goes to Washington, that's who I want to coach.
Yeah.
So I think that heavily influenced Cliff, a chance to work with a guy like Jaden Daniels and be able to use, he's always going to spread you out to run it. They've upgraded the offensive line center, certain things. Like, I feel like that's a good spot with Jaden and Cliff Kingsbury. Cliff's worked with a lot of great quarterbacks, including Caleb this year and, Mahomes, whatnot. So I feel like it's a good spot for Jaden to kind of start his career.
Yeah, I think Washington is going to be good. I mean, not right away, but I think they're on the path to being good. I think down the line, they're going to build something. I think they finally have it cleaned, and I could see them. How about New England? You think New England goes Drake May?
I think Drake May goes 3rd, but I don't think it's going to be to New England. That's where I have my first trade. I think Minnesota, there's a reason why they went and traded and they got that 23rd pick. It's going to take their 11th pick, their 23rd pick, and maybe some more to go from 11 to 3. And New England, who just has a lot of holes and a lot of needs, and they got their stopgap quarterback back in the fold. Like, I feel like this is where Minnesota makes the move to get Drake May. There's a natural connection.
Yeah, I like that.
Josh McCown coached Drake May in high school in Charlotte. Josh McCown went to work every day when Sam Darnold was a rookie with the New York Jets. He was on that roster. So he knows Sam Darnold. He knows Drake. Like, that quarterback room will have a lot of familiarity as they kind of begin this process. And I think Drake, well, I'm not in love with him. I do think he's got what it takes to become an NFL quarterback from his frame, his size, his arm. I'm not enamored by his overall accuracy, but I think a lot of that is just footwork and mechanics and things like that. And I think Kevin O'Connell understands, like, look, everybody comes out of Sean McVay's system right now. I mean, every coach in this league has got some connection, it seems, to Sean McVay. You know, they just saw Matt Stafford, win a Super Bowl, and you have to do it with, a big, strong pocket quarterback. And that's what Stafford has been. That's what they won a Super Bowl with, got back to the playoffs with. I think O'Connell understands that. And I think losing Kirk Cousins, getting Sam to see what he has, what he is, after spending a year in San Francisco, would make sense.
How about 4 with Arizona? Is there a trade here, or do we see our first receiver go?
Well, Arizona already has another number 1 pick. They have the 27th pick. They have 6 of the top 90 picks. You could see them trading back, but how many picks can you actually acquire? At some point, you got to go, I need an elite receiver.
Yes.
You lose Hollywood Brown, you lose Rondale Moore. Like, let's just go get Marvin Harrison, and let's start helping out, Kyle Murray here. So Kyler, gets his number 1 target. He didn't have one last year. The tight end, Trey McBride, was his number 1 target when he came back, which is fine. Trey McBride's a good player, ascending player. I thought the offensive line, Paris Johnson was a good safe pick last year. They're looking for solid building blocks in Arizona, and I think Marvin Harrison. I think if they don't take Marvin Harrison, if they trade down, not that Monty Ossenfort, the general manager, is listening to the fans, but I think the fans want to see Marvin Harrison. I think they can see, like, maybe, this can be their next Larry Fitzgerald type. Just his size, the way he catches the ball, his productivity. I could see Larry Fitzgerald was the 3rd pick in the draft by Arizona. This is the 4th pick. I can see that sort of connection to Marvin Harrison.
Yeah, I agree. I love that. So then you have the Chargers, and the Chargers are interesting because you can go O-line, which they need some help, or you can go receiver too, because you still have 2 great receivers sitting there.
And I think that's what they do. I mean, look, and I think they go Malik Neighbors here.
Yeah.
I think he is, he's a guy that they can move around. They can play him in the slot, play him outside. You lose Keenan Allen, you lose Michael Williams. And while an offensive tackle, Joe Alt, makes a lot of sense right here, and I just remember talking to guys at Notre Dame, Michigan wanted Joe Alt in the worst way, and Harbaugh lost him to Notre Dame. And I can see Harbaugh going, I'm getting Joe Alt on this team after starting 3 years at Notre Dame. And it makes sense, but at the same time, Justin Herbert needs some help.
Yes.
You're going to build the offense around Justin Herbert, and while you want to run the ball, you want a strong offensive line, and they could do that, especially Joe. He could play opposite Rashawn Slater. It would make sense. I feel like they've got to help out Justin Herbert with an elite prospect, and I think that's what Malik Neighbors is. Yeah,
Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, older guys. At this point, I'm with you. And then we go to the Giants. The G-men on the clock. They need all kinds of help. What do you think?
Well, I think look, Joe Shane and Brian Dable, they come from New England where they got a hold of Josh Allen. And, they built a regime there that's just won 4 straight AFC East titles. And I feel like they have seen enough of Daniel Jones over 2 years. They saw a good year of Daniel Jones. They saw another injured year of Daniel Jones. I feel like this is where they kind of reset and they go, okay, let's go get J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to start right away. We signed Drew Lock. We'll see if Daniel Jones is ready. We don't think J.J. McCarthy needs to start right away, but let's just start building. Yes, they could go receiver here. They could go offensive line here. there's no doubt that there's positions of need. They signed 2 linemen in free agency. John Runyon goes up there to play guard, probably next to Andrew Thomas. They could easily take another tackle here just to cover themselves, but they signed Jermaine Luminar. Like, I think he'll compete, with what they have at tackle. I think this is where they reset. Yeah, Saquon's not to face the organization anymore. I don't think Daniel Jones is. I think we've seen enough of him. Like, let's go get J.J. McCarthy here. He's sitting there. Let's take him. Let's start developing.
Do you believe in him? I mean, God, the meteoric rise of J.J. McCarthy. And listen, I watched them all year, and the best offensive line, run game. I've saw him throw the ball twice in the second half during times, and obviously he was very good as that game manager during their playoff run. But man, he gets a ton of love out there. Are you a believer?
Not just a ton of love. You don't see anybody taking any shots at him. Like, I can see everybody taking shots at Drake and Jaden and Caleb in certain ways. I don't see anybody ripping him down, like tearing him down, and going through the normal process and the gauntlet that every quarterback has to go through. But look, his coach comes out and says he's the best quarterback in this draft. He was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school. He happened to go to Michigan, which has this particular system that's built around the running game, not turning the ball over, playing defense, like all those things, and it worked. I mean, he's 27-1 as a starter, so it worked. But I think you have to strip it down so much just to find what NFL throws are truly there. Ohio State, there's a couple at Washington, but I think that's what it's going to go off of. And they're going to go off the character and the kid and what he was in high school, how he's put on weight since the combine. He's embraced, throwing the ball at the combine. He wants to compete. He likes a challenge. I think those things have pushed him up.
So now you got Tennessee on the board at 7. Now,
I mean, look, Will Levis is the quarterback. You build around Will.
Right.
They went out and got themselves, a $50 million wide receiver. They drafted Peter Skoronski last year, who's a good player. Like, this is where Joe Alt goes. Joe Alt, like, you literally, take Joe here. You play Skoronski at guard or, and make a powerful left side and put Joe Alt at left tackle and just start rebuilding the process in Tennessee. They got Tony Pollard. They've got, some good running backs right now. Let's give Will Levis all the help we can get and start rebuilding an offensive line, which was one time, 3-4 years ago, a strength in this organization.
So now you got at 8, you got Rome Odunze still there, Atlanta. It seems like a perfect match that now you can have terrific skill people. Do you go – because Rome at 8 is that's great value. You already got a running back, a tight end, and another receiver. I mean, that offense would be potent.
It could be. Drake London's there. Kyle Pitts is there. Rome makes sense. I also think they need a pass rusher in a worse way. And so Raheem Morris, comes from that side of the ball where, defense basically closed out a game with Aaron Donald. Leonard Floyd won a Super Bowl a couple years ago, got back to the playoffs with some good young rookies. I think this is honestly where the first defensive player comes off the board.
Dallas Turner?
I'm going to go Jared Verse here.
Okay.
He's more of a pure defensive end than Dallas is, although I think Dallas is a better pass rusher at this point. But I think this is where Jared Verse goes. I think Atlanta starts.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, they have, they have some really good defensive tackles there. They have, you could go corner here. You could go Rome for sure. But I feel like this is where the first defensive player goes.
It's interesting because the thing about Turner, I love Turner's, he's ferocious. Like, I love his ferocity off the edge. But you're right. Like, when you look at Verse, he's not just a specialist. Like, he's a guy that you could play 3 downs and you can.
He's a 4-3 defensive end, which is what Atlanta is defensively right now.
Yeah, he's interesting. He's an interesting guy. All right, 9, you got the Bears again. So how do you go now with Chicago?
I think they have one missing component to building a real good defense. We saw it really develop last year. Eberflus did a good job when he took over. Everything, the corners are really good. They re-signed Jalen Johnson. They went out, and got Kevin Byard to go with Jaquan Brisker. They got Kyler Gordon in the slot. Tyreek Stevenson looks like a good pick at corner. It looks like they needed an end opposite of Montez Sweat. Montez Sweat was you gotten for a second-round pick. There's nobody in this draft like Montez Sweat. Nobody. Nobody's 6'6", 270 that can run like Montez Sweat, plays as hard as he does. So this is where Dallas Turner goes. You could easily make the case for Rome right here and just go, okay, just give Caleb just that much more. Now, he's got DJ, he's got Keenan Allen, he's got 2 tight ends, Cole Kmet, Gerald Everett. He's got 3 running backs. You could go offensive line here and just give them the best left tackle. But Braxton Jones has played pretty good out there at left tackle. I think they complete the defense right here with Dallas Turner. And so that's, Chicago's known for defense. The Monsters of the Midway. The head coach is a defensive guy built around a front 4. I think this is where they complete the defense with Dallas Turner right now.
Yeah, I it's funny because I had Rome going because it's more the obvious pick. But you're right. Like if you put Turner, wow, that's scary, man. Wow, Turner, Sweat,
DJ Edwards. You look at what they did at linebacker last year. They both played really well. They drafted 2 defensive tackles last year. Just finish the defense. Finish it. When you go up against Green Bay and that young, talented offense, and you go against Detroit, keep the score down. Keep it down to 20. Let Caleb go to work with what he's got. There's going to be receivers in the second round if you want another receiver or an offensive lineman. Those guys can be had. They don't have a second-round pick, but the receivers are going to go deep into this draft. So I feel like I just feel like this is where Ryan Poles kind of finishes the defense right here.
Yeah. And listen, that defense was terrific down the stretch. All right, last one. This is our top 10. We'll finish it next week. It's the Jets and a team that you're very close with. The Jets sitting at 10. Now, they're an interesting group. And you talked about this. They could be a story next year.
Well, I mean, it's all based on health. I mean, if Aaron Rodgers comes back and comes anywhere near his capabilities and returns, they're going to be a good football team. Defensively, they might be the best defensive football. And that's not hyperbole. They've got 6 former number 1 draft picks on the defensive line. They picked up Hassan. He's an upgrade over Bryce Huff. They picked up Javon Kinlaw. He's a rotational guy. Solomon Thomas, a rotational guy. To go with Quinnen Williams. And Jermaine Johnson, whose arc is just getting better and bigger and bigger. To go with Will McDonald coming back in his second year. You look at linebackers with Quincy Williams and C.J. Mosley. You look at the corner situation with Sauce and DJ. I mean, this defense is elite. Now, at 10, and I just had this debate on Tuesday when I was up there with the Jets. We were doing this similar type mock draft like we're doing right now. And we get to 10. And, on our particular mock, Rome is there. Brock Bowers is there. Olu Fashanu is there. All these guys are there. And what do? Do you take the tackle and maybe redshirt him or wait for either Tyron Smith or Morgan Moses to go down and you plug and play? You build for the future. Do you go tight end? The tight end room is pretty deep there as it is right now. They've got 4 guys on the roster. All, I think, are good players. So while none of them are what Brock Bowers appears to be, unless you have a clear-cut plan for Brock, like they do in Kansas City, they do with Mark Andrews in Baltimore, unless you have a clear-cut, are you going to get the most value out of him? So this is where I feel like Rome Odunze goes. And you just go, okay, Aaron, here we go. You got Garrett Wilson. You've got Mike Williams. You've got Breece Hall. We've just given you 3 new starters in the offensive line. By the way, we've got 2 former 4th-round picks. Back it up here at offensive tackle that we're going to continue to develop. You put Rome in there Because to me, the comp for Rome Odunze was a bigger, stronger, faster Garrett Wilson.
Yeah.
So you Rome, Garrett, Mike Williams, and tight ends and Brees, and that defense, I'm all in on the Jets.
Yeah. Yeah. No, with adding that kind of playmaker, wow. I mean, their offense could be scary. And I forgot Mike Williams went there, man. That's now all of a sudden you look at that receiver room, and you're right. They got all kinds of tight ends already, so you don't need Bowers. It all goes down to, it's amazing, man. It all goes down to one man and the health of Aaron Rodgers. Wow.
The health of Aaron Rodgers, and look, they've got two 33-year-old offensive tackles. Morgan Moses, who's played in New York, knows that building, knows the system, knows the coach. Played well in Baltimore for 2 years. And Tyron Smith. And we have seen when Tyron Smith's on the field, he's still an elite player. He just has to stay on the field. Last year, I think they got 13 or 14 starts out of him. So that's what they need to get from Tyron.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. All right, there's our top 10. We will continue the mock into next week. To recap, Bears go Caleb Williams, Washington, Jaden Daniels, New England in a trade. Baldy has a trade with Minnesota, and Minnesota takes Drake May. I can totally see that. That makes sense. Arizona, Marvin Harrison Jr. Chargers go Neighbors. Giants, J.J. McCarthy. They get the quarterback to finally end the Daniel Jones disaster. The Titans get the big tackle, Alt. The Falcons get an end in Verse from Florida State as a player. The Bears go Dallas Turner, who's a ferocious defensive end pass rusher. And the Jets get Rome. That's the top 10 as we see it. Still a lot of talent on the board. We'll see what happens with the Eagles, who are at 22. And if they move up, we'll continue that conversation next week as we continue the mock. Baldy, what's on tap for the weekend?
Well, I'm here in South Florida. I mean, I'm definitely going to get in the water. It's calm today, and it's got good visibility. But it's just all studying all the time. I'm into the 4th and 5th round prospects, at center, at wide receiver right now, just trying to find value so that when some of these names get called, I'll be kind of covering the draft in LA for the NFL Network. When some of these names get called, I don't want to be surprised. I want to know who they are, if they want to come to me and talk about them. I want to be able to deliver, pretty cogent analysis. So I'm just getting myself familiar with some guys at all these positions right now.
Yeah, nobody does their homework like you. And it's nice. You take a break and you go into the water. Like, that's exactly Baldy's life.
That's my study break. My study break is just to go, drop down 40 feet and see, if there's any nurse sharks or turtles or, manta rays like flying around down there. Let's see what we got.
Here he is. Can we play it one more time? Baldy, let's see it.
Baldy, Baldy. Oh, let's talk some football. Baldy, Baldy. Oh, he likes meats and football.
Oh, Baldy.
That's it.
My brother.
All right, man.
You're
keep
the greatest.
Because I love it. Have a great weekend, man.
You too, brother. Talk to you soon.
See you next week.
The great Baldy and our first 10 picks